This is John Howell Essential Cuts, your daily rundown of the best from today's show on 890 WLS.
So the 3-day Netroots Nation conference ended on Saturday. 3,000 activists and group leaders all there inside and around the Chicago Hilton on South Michigan Avenue. More than 150 panels, training sessions. They had the tour launch of a banned bookmobile that's going nationwide. They had sessions on restorative justice, climate change, coalition building, combating disinformation, voting rights, U.S. foreign policy, and the Pentagon budget. And they were all interspersed with daily morning yoga and noontime meditation. Reading from Rick Pearson's column in the Chicago Tribune, chief political reporter for the Tribune, joins us now here on the Big 89. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm a little way down from my overindulgence at the Billy Goat. I don't need to have two of those burgers at night.
It's all good, healthy food.
Sure, grading on a scale. Sure. So was this 3-day conference, was this a warm-up for the kind of a dress rehearsal for the convention next year?
Absolutely. I mean, this is normally in the past, this Netroots Nation convention has been kind of a place for candidates to start kicking the tires, as it were, Democratic candidates. But obviously, since Biden is unchallenged, this was more of a policy kind of more dealing with policy and gearing up as policy translating into politics. And politics being 2024 and the Democratic National Convention.
Who were the stars?
Well, one of the big things, of course, was Mayor Johnson, because that showed progressives a success to point to. And, of course, again, with Chicago getting the Democratic Convention, progressives want to show that this is an example of what can work. Now, of course, he's only been in office, a couple of months, and we haven't really seen much of what kind of change he has promised to bring to the city. But definitely he was a star. Kim Foxx was there reading from a monologue from a woman who had been incarcerated previously for stealing and drugs, and she got a standing ovation, which I suppose in that audience wouldn't be surprising, and basically said that all of the bad things that had happened to this woman whose monologue she was reading were all the reasons that people hate me.
Yeah. Based on the Illinois Supreme Court now, we'll have to see how the cashless bail is going to work out. Kim Foxx, maybe one of their state's attorney, were promoting this, and the rest of the state's attorneys throughout Illinois did not like the idea of cashless bail.
Yeah, but I will tell you one thing about that, and this is something that I've written about in the past, and I'm not casting judgment on whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, but I think one reason that you have the state's attorneys were so overwhelmingly against this law is because under the provisions to keep somebody detained in a cashless system, it's up to the state's attorney to prove that this person needs to be detained. It means they're going to have to do some more work.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a fundamental reason, because they don't want to have somebody go out and do something that when it's possible that they could have been detained by the state's attorney through the actions of the state's attorney.
Understood. Rick Pearson is here, chief political reporter for Chicago Tribune. So as this event happened, Johnson's social policies were celebrated, obviously. Tell me about this multi-state bus tour, I guess is the banned bookmobile. They kicked it off in Printers Row?
Yeah, I think most people who are familiar with politics have heard of the group MoveOn.org and their digital kind of coordination and petitioning and that kind of thing. They're the ones that launched this, have this big bus painted with read banned books on the side of it. And they're making a 11-state tour culminating down at the Florida State Capitol to assail Ron DeSantis' policies in regards to books in schools and books in libraries. And as Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers, remarked, it almost sounds antithetical that in this age of digital everything, that the issue of printed books would actually become something that a new generation would coalesce around and support.
Who was accused more over the conference and vilified, DeSantis or Trump?
You know what? I rarely heard Trump's name at all, and I think part of that is because Trump is a known quantity, and that DeSantis being new, that he becomes a newer target for the progressives to go after, even though, as we've seen, he's, languishing in the polls. And I know a lot of people are writing him off, but I mean, you can't write anybody off this early in a campaign. But I do think it's DeSantis and the newness of him and what he represents as to motivate people who might have been Republicans who were never Trumpers but might vote for DeSantis. I think that's where these progressives see a greater threat.
Yeah. Ed Kilgore, no doubt, Ed Kilgore from New York Magazine. He wrote a piece. We're going to talk to him next hour. Don't write off Ron DeSantis just yet. He's got a boatload of cash, and, he's waiting for somebody else to take out Trump.
Well, and I think that's very much the case. I mean, even, today when DeSantis was being asked about, now that Trump has identified himself as receiving a target letter for the January 6th special inquiry, DeSantis is saying, well, maybe he should have done more to quell the insurrection at the Capitol, but I don't know that that's a criminal offense.
Right.
And this is that fine line of DeSantis trying to block the Trump agenda without being Trump, while Trump is still out there very big on the scene. Yeah, he needs somebody that can take out Trump, and so that he becomes the de facto Trump. But if Trump doesn't get on a debate stage, which sounds like he's not going to do that debate in Milwaukee next month, I don't know how you're going to find that confrontation that takes Trump out. I don't think another indictment is going to take Trump out of the race.
No, of course not, because he's getting indicted to protect his people. He's doing that for them. It's a brilliant business model. It works with 20 million plus. So, you can't be elected president with just those people. I think everybody else looks through it and says it sounds like a big load of BS, but it works with that core. So you start there.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly. I mean, it's I'm being indicted to save you from you being indicted.
Yeah. The libs and everybody else. All right. Well, that's how that works. We'll see how it plays out. It certainly keeps you in business.
It sure does.
All right, Rick. Thanks
for a nice quiet summer.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to be quiet this summer or next year. It's going to be up for grabs. All hands on deck. DEFCON 1. I'll see you in the war room.
Very good.
Remember,
Thanks,
no fighting in the war room.
And no double cheeseburgers either.
Or at least just one. Just one.
No.
Come on, have some self-control, John.
You don't want to spread that grease on the maps, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Rick. Have a great day.
You too.
You're listening to John Howell, Essential Cuts on 890 WLS.
It's always great to have Ed Kilgore on the program, longtime political observer. That's an understatement. Columnist for New York Magazine and a returning guest. This caught my eye. Don't write off Ron DeSantis just yet. And the column is a couple of days old. Ed, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Let me read to my listeners your opening paragraph here. Lately, everywhere you look, people are dumping on Ron DeSantis. He botched his campaign launch. He's lost altitude in the polls. He keeps getting outmaneuvered by Trump. Big donors and conservative media figures, especially Rupert Murdoch, are beginning to wonder if they're wasting their time and money. As actual voters learn more about the Florida governor's personality, they seem to like him less. DeSantis is widely seen as just one major misstep away from a campaign in free fall. But my question to you, Ed Kilgore, are we dancing on his grave prematurely?
Yes, which is a pretty bad habit of political journalists, I must say. But, yeah, it's obviously very early A lot of crazy things keep happening. DeSantis does have tons of money still. But most importantly, the main reason not to write him off is that he's sort of going for broke in Iowa, and it may be his best opportunity to win, particularly after a pretty good performance by him at a major event last Friday that Trump skipped. So I'm not a big fan of Ron DeSantis or much of an appreciator of his campaign, but he does have some assets.
What does it tell you when he laid off the people earlier this week? Are they in serious financial trouble? They can't be. They have a boatload of cash, don't they?
Yeah, it's a little murky, but it looks to me like they basically just transferred some people from the campaign to the super PAC. I'm not sure it's going to make any big difference. They have burned through an awful lot of money, but a lot of it has been invested in sort of a ground game, particularly in Iowa, which may or may not work. If it does, it's really going to pay off well in Iowa caucuses that are all about getting people to the caucus sites and require a great deal of effort on the ground. That's really DeSantis' best hope of winning.
I remember a couple cycles ago, I think Rick Santorum, then senator, maybe a former senator at that point, he went to all 99 counties in Iowa, and I think he came really close, or upon further review, he won.
He won. DeSantis and Mike Huckabee in 2008, DeSantis in 2012, Ted Cruz in 2016.
Santorum.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all followed the same playbook, and it's worth noting that the people around DeSantis are mostly veterans of that Ted Cruz campaign, and they did beat Trump in Iowa, not much anywhere else.
Okay, so the other reason is, outside of Trump, is there anybody else on the metaphorical stage that can challenge DeSantis?
Time is really beginning to run out on some of these other people. I mean, at this point, nobody in the other candidates is hitting anything like double digits in national or even in early state polls. There's a little bitty buzz for Vivek Ramaswamy. Doug Burgum is spending a ton of money, but you just can't really see any of them challenging Donald Trump at this point. So it's DeSantis or nothing.
How about, I love that Burgum, he'll give you a $20 gift card if you just donate $1 to help him get on the stage.
That's correct.
Wow.
And he did have a poll come out today from New Hampshire showing him at 6% there. So, money talks.
Yeah. Ed Kilgore is here, longtime political observer and columnist for New York Magazine. I guess this is a parlor game, but Chris Christie made the threshold, I think. He has the 40,000 individual donors now. He'll probably sign the pledge, that Mitt Romney's niece wants him to sign. But that being said, do you think Trump will show up? Because what good is it to have Chris Christie there if Trump doesn't show up?
I think particularly this latest indictment strikes me as pretty much making it very likely that Trump will skip that debate. He can say the election is really all about him now, and the Biden administration's targeting of him with criminal indictments, and that he doesn't need to be on the stage with any other Republicans. So I can't imagine what Chris Christie is going to do with himself if he does make the debate stage.
Back to DeSantis. Okay, so he's languishing, maybe not. How do you attack Trump to take him down, or maybe he's just waiting for the feds to take him down, but I don't see that happening, without blowing off or insulting the Trumpians?
Well, DeSantis's tack so far has been to try to out-Trump Trump, to criticize Trump for insufficient rigor on the very issues that the MAGA base cares most about, everything from abortion to certainly the COVID-19 precautions. DeSantis' biggest applause line on the stump is, I would have fired Anthony Fauci from day one, so that's his tack, and arguably he's setting himself up to be the natural successor to Trump in this cycle, if not later, and he could do that without frontally attacking Trump.
Tim Scott and Nikki Haley just auditioning for VP?
They're probably hoping lightning will strike. The fun thing to me is to watch Scott and Haley complaining about being considered vice presidential possibilities only, yet neither of them will rule it out, will they?
No, of course not.
If you really didn't want to be considered for vice president, there's an easy way to take care of that.
19% of all vice presidents, last time I checked, wind up becoming president of the United States.
Yeah, no, it's the obvious thing to do, particularly when you have an overwhelming front runner who will only be able to serve one term, or who will leave behind a Republican Party desperate for new blood if he loses. So, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Does Iowa GOP Governor Kim Reynolds, is she considered a kingmaker, or is she not that relevant?
She matters in Iowa. She's widely considered to be sort of in the tank for Ron DeSantis, but and this is sort of a tradition in Iowa, she's formally neutral. She's a pretty significant factor in Iowa, and is also sort of aligned with Bob Vanderplaats, who convened that event on Friday. Tucker Carlson dominated, but they're both considered sort of not so secret DeSantis assets, and it's another reason it's too early to write him off.
Yep, like the last line in your column, Ron DeSantis' campaign is far from dead, but he needs to give it a good jolt sooner rather than later.
That's right. He's not going to be able to float along on money and sort of possibilities forever. And sooner or later, one of these other candidates could take off. But his biggest problem is that at some point, the Republican elites who got him into the race to begin with, by the way, are going to just decide Trump's the nominee, and they'll just sort of close it all off. That's the biggest risk for Ron DeSantis.
Those must be when you're trying to get a call through to Rupert Murdoch and he's no longer picking up the phone. That's got to be a change in your career trajectory.
Well, he's been given a lot of opportunity. I mean, at one point late last year, it looked like he might be able to unite the entire Republican Party that wasn't in the tank for Trump. There was at one point Mitt Romney was talking about possibly supporting DeSantis. Now that DeSantis is running as Attila the Hun, it seems a little less likely that these sort of never Trump, less conservative Republicans are going to be able to back him. I think they're going to be looking at people like Haley and Scott.
Oh, it's interesting times. And what about this no labels? That's got to be a real concern for Democrats. That's kryptonite.
Yeah, it just so happens, being an old guy that's been in centrist Democratic politics for a long time, I know most of the cast of characters in that drama, and I really think the leadership of No Labels has now been pretty much isolated. The very people that used to support them and talk to them are now horrified that they're simply going to help elect Donald Trump. And to the extent that the No Labels leadership has said over and over and over again they will not run a candidate who can't possibly win, I think the whole thing's going to blow up.
I concur. Ed Kilgore, nice talking to you, sir. Have a great afternoon. Longtime political observer and columnist for New York Magazine. Thank you for your time and your thoughts on this.
Thank you, John.
Take care.
This is John Howell, Essential Cuts on 890 WLS.
After more than 3 years, or as my friend Joey Cass would say, after more than 3 years, the payment pause on student loans is coming to an end. Payments will be due starting October 1st. This will affect millions of Americans, which, of course, means it creates an excellent opportunity, a rich vein to be tapped for scammers. Let's start there with Steve Bernas. He joins us every couple weeks, president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Chicago and Northern Illinois. Well, Steve, with the Supreme Court ruling no, and people are going to have to start paying again, how does this scam work?
Well, good evening, John. Thanks for having me on today. Yeah, as soon as the Supreme Court decision came down on around June 30th, the scammers came out of the woodwork. So basically, they're saying two things: one, they can get you out of your student loan legally and officially, which is forgiveness, and then they say they have financial aid that can help you in paying your loans, whether it be a scholarship or some other thing. And both are misleading, and both have turned out to be scams. From a lot of consumers have contacted the Better Business Bureau. So if somebody calls you out of the blue and has this great offer, but you need to pay us, John, or you got to give us your credit card, or we need your Social Security number or something like that, that could be the tip-off to the rip-off, John.
My Social Security number, I mean, are those even confidential anymore?
Unfortunately, it's not the case anymore. But I think consumers have to realize that they've been in a breach. It could take up to 10 years for your Social Security number to be used by somebody. It's not automatically happens with a breach. So if there's a breach and they go, I'm safe, but it can happen anytime. And your number is obviously floating everywhere, John. Unfortunately, it's getting into the wrong person's hands. And identity theft is, as you know, the fastest growing white collar crime today still. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when your identity be stolen. You know, mine was stolen several times. And, you know, previous Attorney General Lisa Madigan's identity was stolen several times as well. So you can't get around it, John. It's just a matter of time. So it's being vigilant and protecting what you can, and don't give out your Social Security number freely. And most consumers run into that problem. I had a relative I mentioned before who received a call and said Social Security Administration on her caller ID, and they asked her for a Social Security number. They got to verify, and it wasn't them. And she was scammed. So you got to be very careful, John.
This morning, wanted to change a password on one of my accounts. So I provided them with my existing password, I think. I can't remember exactly what the sequence was, but they sent me a confirmation code to my cell phone. Well, if people know the last four digits of my Social Security number and my cell phone, that's a problem, isn't it? Because that's the combination necessary to reset a password.
It is. It is a big, serious concern, because that is how they reset passwords. And they usually have that information. They're trying to get some information they may not have to steal your identity in some way. And they make you feel good because you're sending a link, because that's authentication, you know, where before they send it to you, they'll send it to your phone, make sure it's you. But sometimes if you get it sent to your phone, it's usually a safer bet, the authentication, because you're dealing with that cell phone number. So
supposedly, well, I'm the only one with a phone. Yeah, so I'm the only one with the phone.
Right.
Yeah, unless my phone's been ghosted or something. Okay. The other thing is, I was reading through your materials here, and this is a really good information. If somebody says, call between 11 and 3, Mountain Time, that's the time we can help you process this brand new, wonderful opportunity to forgive your student loan. That's a dead giveaway as well, isn't it?
It is. It's usually somebody just trying anything to make it easier for you to get you out of that loan in some way. So, yeah, that's one of the signs that something is wrong with that.
Okay, let's go to this artificial intelligence scam. We were talking about this earlier today. Let me play something. Well, I can't just play it for you because we must announce both on the front and the back side of any AI-generated audio that it's artificial intelligence. And this is kind of a sidebar. I don't want to talk politics with you necessarily, but Ron DeSantis is starting to run an ad tonight in Iowa. It's a major buy on TV, where he's touting the fact that Donald Trump has insulted the governor out there, who's more of a DeSantis fan than a Trump fan. She's a Republican, Kim Reynolds. But he wrote a post about Kim Reynolds. Now, the DeSantis people are using artificial intelligence to change that post written by Donald Trump into audio that sounds like Donald Trump. This is artificial intelligence.
I opened up the governor position for Kim Reynolds, in which she fell behind. I endorsed her, did big rallies, and she won. Now she wants to remain neutral. I don't invite her to events.
I mean, I listen to a lot of Donald Trump audio because of this job, obviously. That's not him, but it's pretty close. And now you're warning people that audio posts on social media or the internet are susceptible to being copied and then used to make alarming calls to your loved ones. How does this work?
Well, it's true, John. They need about 5 seconds of your voice to really use artificial intelligence against you. And we're seeing that what's called deepfake technology, where they make it sound like you're a well-known celebrity or leader, or it can be a family member. And what happens is they may call you up in the middle of the night saying that your grandson or daughter has been in an accident, and you need we need money to get them out of jail, and you need to wire them it right away. And here's his voice, and that voice comes on, and you think it's your nephew or grandson, whatever it may be, and it's not. So this new technology is really alarming, and it's really it's still wild west out there, as you know, John, and it's just getting worse because we're seeing the scams already starting, and it's just the start of this, and people don't realize how easy it is to really to make a voice sound like it's somebody else's pretty quickly and easily. It's only, like I said, 5 seconds is needed.
Steve Bernas is here, President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Chicago and Northern Illinois. Kim Gordon would like to join the conversation. Kim?
Steve, what about this new scam that I've been reading about in the travel industry, that people who have their flights canceled and try to rebook are getting scammed when they try to call? They think they're calling the airline, but apparently they're not. Are you aware of this one?
Yeah, I am, Kim. Unfortunately, you go online and sometimes a scammer buys the ad. So you could use XYZ Airline or United Airlines or Southwest, whatever it may be, and they put an ad up on top and make it look like it's the airline. It's not. So you have to make sure you're dealing with the carrier itself by going to the website. Just don't go on those ads that are on top. Or sometimes people call, Kim, and they just miss one digit, and those scammers buy those digits near the main carrier's phone number. So in case you misdial, then they grab your call. Yes, we are. We'll give you a refund. We need your credit card for reimbursement, or they can send charges as well. So you got to be very careful on the companies you're dealing with. Go directly to their website, not off of those ads. And are the airlines honoring or refunding money, or are they part of helping people get rebooked if they do fall for the scam? Some are helping in some way, but they're not helping much, because we're hearing from consumers, Kim, who are saying that the airlines has been no help to them because they gave money to a scammer, information to a scammer. They didn't give it to the airlines. Unfortunately, they can't control that, what appears on Google, and you'll see the first two positions. We see a lot with ticket scams, for theater. You think you're dealing with a theater, and it's just an advertisement from a company or a scammer, trying to gouge you in some way. My family member, I won't mention her name, but her initials are my wife, actually tried to talk to a live person because she was so frustrated with the airline. This a few years ago. She wanted to book a ticket, so I think she knew she was going to a broker, but the broker he said, I can book the flight, but I need the credit card right now. And I think that she booked, and it was, I think she used the ticket, but it was unbelievably expensive. The surcharge was more than the original ticket. Right. They just add those fees. It's the same thing with theaters. I mean, sometimes you pay double of the tickets because people don't realize it. They don't read the big print, give it, and the little print, take it away. And the little print on there is like, we're not the venue, and you're going to pay these charges. But nobody looks at that, John. They just want to get the tickets to the sought-after events or cheap plane tickets, and you're dealing with these scammers who are very high-tech now, very elaborate, and they don't have those misspellings on their websites anymore. They got spell checker, and I guess they pay for it. Steve Bernas, thank you for the update and the reminder to, buyer beware, fooling his money. Steve Bernas, President and CEO of the BBB of Chicago, Northern Illinois. Thanks so much. Have a great evening. You too, John. Thank you so much. Take care.
You're listening to John Howell, Essential Cuts on 890 WLS.
Phoenix will today beat its all-time record of 18 days at 110 degrees plus. Today's 19 and many more days are in the forecast, and wait till Colorado turns off the water. I mean, it's hot. It's hot. Here's the mayor.
It is a crisis. It's hot. It's hot out there. We all walk out there. It's very, very, very hot.
Now, just to be clear, that's not the Phoenix mayor. That's our former mayor, Richard M. Daley, back, I think, in 95, and we had that terrible heat wave here that killed so many people. Well, let's get an update. Alex Stone is watching this for ABC News. He's on the West Coast. Alex, what's the latest?
How many people are dialing that number right now for that deodorant for your rear?
You, by guesting on this program, we send you a complimentary package of that deodorant.
I can't wait. Yeah. Yes, please, send it my way. Yeah, so Phoenix today, 19th day of temperatures above 110 degrees, and that's the record. 18 was the record going back to the 1970s, and so now they've broken that, and they've also they're breaking the record for the number of nights that are not going below 90. back-to-back nights where they've been about 95, 96 degrees, so getting no relief there either. And it is, as the mayor you heard there a moment ago, it is hot, and they're dealing with it, looking at 117 through the end of the week. It's not going anywhere yet. Hospitals say they are now seeing quite a few people coming in, heat stroke, burns from the concrete. The concrete is so hot that, for whatever reason, people get burned on that. This is a doctor in Phoenix.
Some people get to the point where they're no longer sweating. A lot of people are very lightheaded, dizzy, cramps, feeling very poorly, and some people even have temperatures. We've had someone up to 110 degrees.
And at her hospital, they have what looks like an inflatable raft that they're using, she says, almost daily, where they fill it with buckets of ice. And when somebody comes in overwhelmed by the heat, they put them in there. They essentially put them in an ice bath, cover them in ice, and try to bring down their core temperature. She says really dangerous.
Oftentimes their kidneys aren't working very well, so we have to make sure that improves. If they're to the point where they can tolerate fluids and are looking better, sometimes they can be discharged.
Yeah, she says people have been out hiking or exercising or working in the heat. The other thing is in Houston, they are now slowing down city services, whether it be fixing water main breaks or some of the landscaping, because it's so hot that they can't have crews out there. So, like at the parks, they said typically they do a park every 14 days. Now they're doing it like every 17 days because they can't keep the crews out there. Firefighters, they're sending more engines on every call if they think that they're going to have to be in their turnout gear. So they've got more men and women there.
Oh, my goodness. What a nightmare. What a nightmare that is, working a fire in this heat.
Yeah, and in all the gear and everything else. So they can cycle them out, get them in air conditioning, give them bottles of water, but they're having to do a lot.
In Phoenix, are the medical facilities nearly overwhelmed? Did I hear you say that, or not at the critical stage?
Not overwhelmed, but they say that they are seeing quite a few people who are coming in with different symptoms of heat stroke or burns on them. Not by any means overwhelmed, but they're seeing quite a bit of it.
How long do they expect this to last, or nobody knows?
Well, through the end of the week, 117, then coming down to like 110, 109. So I guess for Phoenix, that would be cool, but it's still going to be really warm. It's going to be a while.
Thank you for the update, Alex. Much appreciated.
You got it. Thanks, John.
Take care.
John Howell, Essential Cuts. Check back every weekday for another episode of John Howell, Essential Cuts on 890 WLS.